Now we speak on the Seder and the Pasha of the week.
Not so. I'll be back in a second. I gotta throw water.
Pasha of the week is called Nosoy. And in the simple terms, Nosoy means you should pick up, you should get the numbers, because this is talking about the counting of the Levim. But the word Nosoy also means to uplift. And the Rebbe always says that the name of the Pasha gives the nucleus, gives the main point of the whole Pasha. The whole Pasha is then something has to do with uplifting. Then when we look in the Pasha, so in the beginning there is the counting of the Levim, which is an uplifting thing, that the Levim were uplifted from all the Yidden, and they were given the Avodah in the Mishkan, in the Mikdash. Then there is, at the end, there are the Korbanos of the Nisim. The Korbanos is that the heads of tribes brought, right in the beginning when the Mishkan was first erected. It was called the Chanukas HaMizbeach. But in the middle, there's a Pasha of a Soita, which you learned, I'm sure, last week. The Pasha of Soita is an amazing thing. What's uplifting about that? Soita means that there was a very inappropriate occurrence, something that's insulting, embarrassing, and the woman who was involved, who was suspected of doing something of this lowly type, is brought to the Mishkan in the Beis Hamikdash, and she is put up for all to see, and it's done in a very embarrassing and insulting manner, downgrading. So what's so uplifting about that? And then, at the end of that parsha, it says that if in fact nothing serious occurred, in fact that the woman did not sin, then not only will she not be punished, but on the contrary, she will be cured of any shortcomings that she has. She will be blessed with beautiful children, and so forth. The whole many blessings that come along. So that itself is also a question, because she went and created such grave suspicion, and she did such. Definitely, it wasn't a nice thing. Definitely. And then, if it turned out that she did not actually sin, she gets all these blessings.
Uplifting means that, when you say uplifting, you mean that it makes you feel good, or what?
No, it's spiritually elevating.
Spiritually elevating.
The Gemara says, and the Alter Rebbe in Tanya quotes this Gemara and explains this Inyan, where the word soita, kisista ishtoi, the Gemara says that this is related to the word shtus. Kisista is related to the word shtus. Shtus means folly, foolishness. And for this the Gemara says that no person can do an Aveira unless a spirit of foolishness, of folly had come upon him. In other words, a person in his right mind cannot possibly do an Avera. In his right mind. I'm not talking about what's ultimately and absolutely right and true and correct. A person doesn't have an Avera is called sister that he had now become a shoiter for this moment.
Shota or so?
Shota. A fool. So, okay, that's what it says in the Gemara, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down and explains it a little bit. What I'd like to focus in and understand, why, how is this true? In other words, how do we understand it? It seems that from a human perspective, a human being has, Alter Rebbe explains, a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Tov enjoys godly things, good things. Yetzer Hara has an opposite inclination. To that Yetzer Hara he possesses. And he possesses that Yetzer Hara, so therefore it would be natural that sometimes the Yetzer Tov is active, sometimes the Yetzer Hara. So why is it called a shtus? It's true, it's like a split personality. Sometimes a person acts one way, another way, but still, why do you call it a shtus? He can justify it. I have an inclination, I like it. And yet the Gemara says, no, this is a shtus, which means, as I said before, it's a shtus even from your own perspective. You all yourself recognize that you're doing a shtus. The fact that a person can accept contradictory actions in himself. Sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the opposite way. Toiv and Ra. He can ask himself a question. How can you, so to speak, respect yourself if yesterday you did this and today you did this? A person has to be consistent. A person has to make up his mind.
Yeah.
So you were fluctuating back and forth. So to this he answers, look, I really don't care. I really don't care for my self-respect. I do what I like. Today I like this, I do this. Tomorrow I like this, I like this. Self-respect, okay, who says I have to respect myself? So when we approach a person on the basis of his own status as a human being, he says, I don't really care. Why should I care? And this is, in fact, what happened to this Saita. What's a Saita? Saita is if a woman was secluded in a manner that was not appropriate. And witnesses observed her doing that. If witnesses observed her doing that, that means that she didn't care to be embarrassed. She didn't care the fact that people saw that she is acting inappropriately. She gave up. I don't care. That means that if we speak in terms of the self, of my own self-respect, it's not going to do it. Because this is the proof. She actually had witnesses see her do this thing which is totally inappropriate. And she went and did it. What then is the real argument? And the Gemara calls it a shtus. The real principle of staying on path and the war between good and bad is not based on the person himself, on self-respect. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that we should understand that the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara are equal armies. They have equal power. There is, in order to win this war, there's a third ingredient here. It's not just the war between Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. And what is this ingredient? For this, the Gemara says that this is shtus, foolishness versus wisdom. What is wisdom? Where is wisdom comes in there? The wisdom is, and this is an important thing to understand, that this is, so to speak, the primary human wisdom. Not something that a great philosopher, a great thinker, every person, like even this weak-minded woman, has that inherent wisdom. And what is it? It is that once that our own presence, the presence of every individual, the existence, the life of every individual is not a stand-alone, independent entity. A person inherently understands, even if he never learned anything. This is inherent wisdom to recognize that the fact that I'm here is because I was brought into being. I didn't bring myself into being.
Brought into what?
Huh?
Brought into what?
Into being, into existence. Everybody understands that. Not only understands that when he thinks about it, but even if he doesn't think about it. This is the sense of being that a person has. That he is here because something preceded him that brought him into being. I pointed out a phenomenon that, God forbid, there are instances of children, abandoned children, who they grow up and they don't know who their parents are. Even if they find their way in life and they establish, being successful, so to speak, they find their way in life, they're helped along, and they develop a normal, successful life. They constantly feel a lack. There's something missing. Because a person cannot orient himself exclusively on his own being. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Where am I? How did I come here? So that this is the primary and fundamental wisdom in every human being. And the opposite of that is the foolishness, the folly. When a person can go and act inappropriately, act in a manner where he is denying the presence of a godly presence, then he is in effect denying to himself his own existence. And this is the Alter Rebbe explained, this is the foolishness. If you say, if this woman says, I don't care what you think of me. I don't care if I'm embarrassed, not embarrassed. I'm doing what I want. But who are you? Are you at this moment thinking of yourself as a total independent, certain standalone entity? What kind of existence is this? Is that really what you think of yourself? That's not a reality. So this is what the Gemara says, that an Aveira which requires that a person becomes oblivious, not aware of a greater truth, of a greater reality in which he exists. He is only aware of himself, and because of that he can do anything. This is entirely based on shtus. Now, this is not something that one may know or may not know. And this is something which every individual inherently relates to himself, and if he does not act accordingly, then he is now fooling himself. That's what shtus. He's fooling himself. It's not his own reality.
When he thinks he can do whatever, then he's shtus.
Das meint nichnas bei ruach shtus. And this ruach shtus, what's called ruach. Ruach is a spirit. Because really, without this wisdom, without this sense that there is a creator that initiates all being, all existence, and initiates my own existence, and gives me the spirit and encouragement to act and to live, then a person would lose all enthusiasm for anything. Would be completely dispirited. With no spirit to do anything. The primary spirit for a person's actions, regardless of what it is, whether it's doing a mitzvah or winning a contest, all spirit is that he relates not just to himself, he relates to a greater existence. This is the source of inspiration. But if he thinks of himself alone, then all spirit leaves him. And what is the spirit that keeps him going? This is what's called spirit of foolishness, folly. The folly becomes itself a spirit, an inspiring thing.
Would you call that a folly with a mitzvah though?
This itself becomes an inspiration to do something foolish.
Rabbi, how do you call it a folly when it's a mitzvah?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. How do you call it a folly when it's dealing with a mitzvah?
No, mitzvah is not folly. Mitzvah is wise.
But you said some. I don't know. I heard the wording noise.
Okay. No, when he's doing the right thing, then he has the proper inspiration. When he's doing the wrong thing, he's inspired by folly.
Okay.
Okay? Before I conclude the question that I asked, I want to further elaborate on this. Sometimes, like the Alter Rebbe speaks about it, a person is dispirited. He doesn't have the enthusiasm to pick up and go and do something. Whether it's doing a mitzvah or doing just the responsibility of life. We have to understand that when a person seeks to be inspired just on the basis of personal gain, of some kind of a personal reason, it does not possess any true value. And it is not really a source of inspiration. What does inspire a person? What is the source of all activity in a person, of all inspiration? It is the sense that every action that I do has a long-term significance. Every action that I do is something that has a bigger value than just me doing this action. And this is something which is universally true. No matter what a person does. I mentioned a while ago an interesting phenomenon that people are talking about a president of the United States. So you think a president of the United States, he has reached, so to speak, the pinnacle of human accomplishment. So he should be, satisfied by virtue of this accomplishment. And then they talk and say, know what he's got in mind? He's got in mind, what is history going to say about him? What do you care about history? You're living now. The answer is that if, no matter what you accomplish, if it has only a limited self-contained value at the moment, it loses its value. Every person, even a goy, has also the idea there has to be something bigger, something broader, something eternal that gives that inspires a person. This is the source of inspiration in a person. And therefore, when it comes to doing an Aveda which is just a momentary thing, this is a spirit of folly. With the whole inspiration doesn't make any sense. Because it doesn't have any kind of significant and long-lasting value. Coming back, I want to just explain this in of the Satan. So it's interesting that the story of the Satan is this woman who defied all self-respect. And defied means she ignored. She became publicly known that she has done something very ugly. Then she's taken to the Mikdash. And publicly she's insulted and embarrassed and all kinds of different things that happen. But if it turns out that in actual fact she did not sin, then she gets all kinds of blessings. Why does she get blessing? She did something ugly. And here's the big catch over here. She did something very ugly, which means, and she did it publicly, which means that she didn't care. She was only narrowly viewing her own the momentary experience, the momentary thing. And then the circumstances were such that now nothing is interfering with doing something really bad. And the last moment she didn't do it. Why did she not do it? Because the last moment she realized, she woke up from her foolishness and realized, I said, this is foolish, this is nothing. And thereby she was able to save herself. In the last moment. This last moment proved and showed and revealed the real innate wisdom that she possessed. So at this moment, this real wisdom surfaced back. The wisdom of recognizing that we said that the real spirit of life is from Hashem. And without that, there's no action is meaningful. And that's how she was able to save herself. So now she has risen up on top, over and above all of these challenges. And that's why she gets all these blessings. And this is why this is part of the Parshas Nosoy. What does Nosoy mean? Hashem wants to uplift you. Hashem wants that the best and the deepest and the purest qualities that we have should not stay latent, hidden, but they should surface. And when they surface, that's when we begin to live a true godly and human life.
Chachma saves
The Chochmah state, right.
We should all be Chacham.
Further down in the Pasha, we have the Korbanos of the Nisi. And this is something which everyone recognizes, that the Torah amazingly repeats the Korbanos verbatim, exactly the same words for each one of the Korbanos of the Nisi. Repeats it 12 times for each one of the Nisi. Where the Torah, which is sometimes stingy with a word, with a letter, should be an extra letter. And here, a whole Pasha 12 times repeated, and it could have clearly been done much briefer. What's the pshat? Why are you repeating it? And moreover, this repetition is where, not that the Torah repeats and elaborates on a very complicated halacha, complicated din. Shabbos, Yom Tov, what you're allowed to do on Shabbos, what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. What you are not allowed to do on Shabbos is mentioned in 2 words. Le'sasik malacha. Don't do malacha. And that's it. That's finished. Everything else, we know from Torah Shabbat. On Shabbos. And here, what the Nisim, the Korbanos of the Nisim brought, is repeated 12 times verbatim. There are 2 important points that I want to make regarding this. The first is that even though each one of the Nisim did exactly the same thing, the same korban, but in fact, they each came from a different perspective. Each Nosi, each Shevet has its specific type of avodah. And therefore, even if they do exactly the same thing, really it is completely different. Each Nosi does something different. This is the first point. And the second point is that this tells us an important thing about the Torah. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya. This is Taki what we just now started learning. That the oisiyos, the words in the Torah that describe the creation, are not words that describe the creation. These are words that create the creation. The Torah is not recounting an occurrence. The Torah is the actuality of it. This is the real thing. This is, in fact, what created the world. When the Torah says, it says in the Torah, "Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz," it seems to be telling us, so to speak, a historical fact. But in fact, Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz is affecting the creation of Shemayim v'Aretz. It affected the creation of Shemayim v'Aretz. And then when it says, Vayim Elokim mihi oir, it's not recounting that Hashem said there should be light, but this is affecting that there should be light in the world, in the creation. And so forth throughout the entire recounting of the creation. This concept, this insight in the infant Torah explains also the big thing that we discussed many times in the past, but now it comes clear. The union that we said that it was Matan Torah, Hashem gave us a Torah. And we asked the question many times, why did Hashem have to give us a Torah? The Torah was learned before. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, everybody in the Shvatim, they all learned Torah. What does the giving of the Torah mean? And we explained the giving of the Torah that this gave us a godly koyach. And here we have this in come completely clear. The Torah is actually representing Hashem's words and Hashem's speech, so that these words and this speech, when we repeat them, we have the koyach of the Torah itself. This is not something that we're talking about something. This is the actual force that creates the world. This is why there was Matan Torah. This is why Matan Torah is such a tremendous breakthrough. Because Hashem put Himself into the world through the Torah. And when Yidden take and learn Torah, and Yidden do a mitzvah, they are not just copying something, doing what it says to do. They are actually enacting that which Hashem is doing. Every time a Yid does a mitzvah, Hashem is doing the mitzvah together with him, because he is doing what it says in the Torah. So that the Torah gives us a different sense of reality, of Hashem's presence in the world. It is not merely knowing about Hashem, it is actually having Hashem here with us. This is what we explained before also, that a person's knowing of Hashem's presence in his life is not merely something that he knows from a distance, he knows logically. But in fact, this is his personal orientation. What am I? If he's not aware of it, then this is his shtus. that makes him unaware of this truth. Because to know this reality, this is like knowing himself. This is illustrated also in the fact that the Torah repeats all the korbanos of the Nasi 12 times, because this which the Torah writes, the korbanos of the Nasi, it is not recounting, it is not telling us what happened, it is making it happen. And since that each Nasi, what he did was something different than the other Nasi did, it has to be recounted 12 times, because something else had to be done, was accomplished. And these words of the Torah make it happen. So here we have this Nosoy principle going through the whole Parsha. An important thing for us, which I believe is of the greatest importance, that many times people kind of shy away. You know what shy away means? They kind of don't think themselves worthy of thinking, oh yeah, I really know Hashem, I really know that Hashem created the world. This is something which I have to believe, but I'm not up to it. It's impossible for an average person to recognize it. This is something which you have to be a very great oived, a very big chassid, a very big philosopher. I'm a simple person. And as a simple person, I know myself, I know the world. And in the world, I see a physical world. What else do I see? And being that I see only a physical world, then therefore, all the mitzvahs that I have to do, it becomes a burden. I must do it, because otherwise, chas v'sholom, I'll be punished. Or whatever else. So, what we need to understand is that in fact, what we need to understand is that in fact, this is the natural, this is the basic human awareness. To know the truth of Hashem's creating the world and Hashem's presence in the world, and to accept the Torah and to know that our actions, our Torah actions, is not something supreme, something out of this world. This is a human reality. And the fact that we have doubt, and the fact that we question ourselves, am I up to it? Is this something real with me? That is the folly, that is the fool in us that comes and tells us that we don't really know it. That's the fool. But the real person knows it. The fool is extremely powerful. How powerful is the fool? We know it from ourselves that we can do a lot of foolish things. But I want to illustrate it from a so to speak, a powerful recognition, which I'll also point out from different angles.
Point out from different what?
I point out from different angles, from different viewpoints. Hashem gave us 5 senses. The regulars heard this talking about the 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight. These 5 senses, this is what brings connects us to the world, brings the world to in our own experience. This is how we're connected to the world. Each one of these connects us to the world in different way, in a different level. And the most effective and the most deepest one, the most powerful one of them is sight. Sight is supreme. Sight is correspondent to the seichel, to the intellect. Sight, that which a person saw, it becomes a reality. This is a reality more real than touch. This is what makes the world real to the person. And this reality that we have in sight is something which is virtually undeniable. It's a reality itself. Except there's one thing that the Rebbe provided. And that is that we can also close our eyes and not see. This ability of closing our eyes and not see, what does that do for us? This gives us a chance to recoil back into ourselves and, in effect, not be active in the world. As long as a person's eyes are open, it's impossible for him to really rest. Even though a sight does not require great effort, he sees automatically, nevertheless, it's something which keeps his mind active and he cannot rest. So what happens when a person closes his eyes and he doesn't see? When a person closes his eyes and doesn't see, he can relate to this in two ways. That the reality which I saw is real. And right now, I close my eyes. Or he can say, the reality existed only when I saw it. Now that I don't see it, I close my eyes, it doesn't exist. Now I'm into myself.
Now I'm into my what?
Myself. This is an interesting thing, that a person can actually fool himself to that extent. If he wishes and says, oh, I don't see it. I don't see it. Aren't you saw it a minute ago? Okay, a minute ago was real, now it's not real. So the power of this fool that can make us not see that which we already saw, the reality, because at this moment I choose not to see, is extremely strong. And the fool that comes and tells us that this is not something which I myself saw, this is something which I'm being told from the book, but really it's not something which is part of my reality, is also the same fool. This is what the Rebbe explains in Tanya. This is Ruach Shtus. The Ruach Shtus covers up the truth. Now the Rebbe says, and what truth does it cover up? It covers up the truth that you can be separate from Hashem, and you can obliviate yourself, make yourself not see it, and it doesn't affect anything. You still remain the same person. So, in summation, I just want to conclude that from this Pasha, Pashas Nosoy, and the fact that the Gemara says from this Pashas Nosoy, that it's impossible for a person to do an Aveda as long as he's in full faculty, as as long as he's in full conscious, in his own faculty, his own wisdom, gives us a very strong perspective of what a human being is and what we are. And enables us to go and face, so to speak, our world without fear, because we know what the truth is. And if for the moment things appear negative, not as the truth, we know that this is a ruach shtus. This is, I'm not seeing the truth the way it is. The other day, I'm going to bring it down to a practical thing. The other day, a young bocher came to talk to me about his personal thing. He was 25 years old. And he's a gifted boy. He went to yeshiva, form challenge, learned all the years. And now he has to prepare himself to get married. And he makes himself the following cheshbon. He wants, when he gets married, he wants to have a big family. And he knows that tuition is extremely expensive. He has a big family, and he needs to pay tuition, school tuition for each one of his children. So he needs a lot of money. So therefore, how do you prepare for life? First, he has to make sure that he had accumulated all the tuitions for all the kids that he's going to have. Then he can get married. Okay? This is the cheshbon. So I sat with him and I said, look, you learn in yeshiva all your life. And what did you learn? What did you learn? That the world is a representation of Hashem's creation. This is not just a dark, natural world. Hashem created the world. Hashem runs it. That's what you learned. And that's why you want to do all of these good, nice things. And at the same time, you're completely blind to all that you learned. You're completely blind. You have to prepare all of these things because of possible eventuality what will happen.
What's a cheshbon?
A cheshbon, calculation. The wisdom of Torah, the human wisdom that recognizes the truth of one's existence, tells him that he has to follow the path that is bright in front of him. We don't know the future. The future is the Rebbe creates the future. It's in Rebbe's hand. That's what we learned. Breishis Bo Elokim Shemayim v'Haaretz. Hashem created the Shemayim v'Haaretz. It's not our creation. And this is the world we want to live in, the little world that Hashem created, not the world that we create in our imagination. And therefore we can go steadily and steadfastly with full confidence with Hashem's help, as long as we are careful to do the right thing at the right time. The Rebbe will lead us in the right direction and brings us success. This is the point of the wisdom of Torah. And not to let the fool cover up the wisdom and say, no, there's nothing going on except that which you make for yourself. There's nothing you can make for yourself without Hashem's help. And the whole inspiration to do it is because you're inspired by a godly intent and desire.
That's the same thing with medicine.
Right. Hashem should help that each one of us should stay alert to our wisdom, to our own wisdom. Not be afraid of the world, not be afraid of our future. To stand, face life with full confidence with Hashem's help, and know that all spirit and all strength comes directly from Hashem. And this, as I said, is not something which belongs to the elite few. This is something which is the property of every Yid. Even the Soita has that power, that strength, as proven for the fact that she did not sin, in fact. And this will carry us through with Hashem's help to help us succeed in our effort here in Yeshiva and on whatever else life will bring to us for us.